Alrighty, today we're back with like some more drawing. I love drawing. It's a huge amount of fun. I'm going to do the muscle exercise again, but this time instead of doing chest, because I've already done it, I'm going to do legs, and I'm going to do a slightly different final drawing as well. So stay tuned for that if you're excited. Thank you so much for being here. Follow along. That's what the idea of this would be, and enjoy yourself. Art is fun. All right, so first off, I'm going to get the name right this time. It's Sinelikov's Anatomy. There's a bunch of different anatomy books. I like them all. We're going to do a similar sort of book as we did last time. Let's get the timer lined up. Boom. Charts in a place I can actually see it. Don't fall off the desk. Perfection. So, the legs are fascinating. There's a ton of really cool musculature in the legs. I'm going to start with the upper thigh. I'm going to come around into the sort of edge of the... I already feel like I've gotten too ambitious. And then down into the foot. I missed a lot of foot here. Going to get some of that rear muscle. And then there's this like wrap of connective tissue around the edge of the joint. And then this other crazy piece of muscle that like shoots up across the leg. We'll come across that again later. That's part of the reason we're doing this. I'm going to come along. My connection is very low. I'm not particularly feeling like drawing genitalia right now, so I won't. I'm going to focus instead on the legs of the muscle. Sorry, the muscles of the leg. Come along. I'm using a very far back grip here to try and get these nice swooping lines. The body is essentially smooth, curving lines, especially in the muscle. Here's my knee joint trying to come in nice and gently. This perspective I always find a little challenging. Keep an eye on my time. I'm 1.5 minutes in. These speed drawings are a little funny because you are forced to focus on a clock to a certain extent. And I see some people finding that really distracting. But the unfortunate reality is there's a big benefit to being faster. Ooh, it's just not a great shape there. So I'm just trying to make sure that each of the lines I put in is in somewhat of the right spot. I don't think this looks very good right now, I'm not going to lie, guys, but I'm just trying to stay positive. And I'm not going to restart, I'm just going to commit. And if it ends up working out great, then that's fantastic. And if not, I'm just not that worried about it. Art for me is very relaxing. It's one of the things that's super nice about it. Totally looking away when that happened. Ooh. See, something like that doesn't bother me when I have the opportunity to make up for it with nice lines elsewhere. Heel, I'm just not that interested in doing the feet and your heels right now. It's the actual muscles and the... See, this muscle group I feel like ended up a little too active, a little too high. And then some more chords to our poor denuded individual. Bit of a dip into the thigh there. Okay, I'm starting to feel more confident. See, once you set in a couple strong lines in the upper part of your image, or anywhere really, you can start relying on them. So now I understand what this was supposed to be, and I can flesh it out and complete it. Whereas if I tried to finish it before, it was actually totally off the ball. So here we are coming around, and this line is just wrong, unfortunately, but I'm just going to ignore it. Hope it goes away. Throw in some of those muscle lines. And then this, I think this is the vastus medialis or something. Come along over here. Coming up to the 4-minute mark. Gonna want to wrap this pretty quickly, but I thought for what to me seemed like a pretty rough start, we've really got some action going here. If I wrap this muscle and toss a bit of shade in, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty darn happy with this piece. Okay, so just coming up to the 5-minute mark. Pretty solid effort on the legs so far. Throwing in a tiny bit of shading. I feel like I said this last time. These bodywork ones, I never feel are the most respectful. But they are resources that exist out there as an artist, and I think it's important to be aware of the sort of material you're using and where it came from. Even if you don't necessarily feel like perhaps this setup makes the most sense, but hey, whatever people want. So let's focusing a lot on the tendon, on all this wider tissue. See, my anatomy, if this was brains, I'd go, well, obviously that white tissue is blah, 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 or specifically myelinated neurons, but neuronal matter was what I was going for. But for muscle, there's definitely a nerve connections somewhere, but I just don't know enough about it, really. I mean, they're just nerve connections at the base of each muscle group or fiber, but I've never actually sat down with a big old chunk of flesh and worked through it and figured out how it all works, which is an essential part, of course. I'm making this guy considerably stronger than it looks in the photo, but let's see. This one I got a bit more time for the legs. I think it's going to focus a little more on shading. Trying to give the perspective. There's some dark lines in the bottom of this one. It's also very aggressively top lit. And there's, of course, so their toes come together like so. I feel like I duffed that a tiny bit, but at least I got the section of toe in a tiny bit. Just throwing a bit of that musculature in the stomach. Abs, I didn't do a great job on them, but they are quite peculiar too. If I do a good job on this, then you should be able to look it up on Autolite and find it with relative ease. If I do a poor job, then you'll have no idea. It's the perfect strategy. Yeah, let the shoulder and the chest position get a little out of whack there. There's times like this where it's like, you know what? I'm the boss. Maybe I'll just move on early. Did a better job on the top of that before, but I know, for whatever reason, this one's not clicking in. And if I'm not able to do a proper job on it, then I'm happy to just move on. No need to bury it into the ground. The next piece up is, of course, the Farnese Hercules, which is supposed to be a 4th century replica, so I read off my sheet. Again, we're looking at the lower body. Again, I'm going to leave out the genitalia. This time, I am going to draw at least 1 foot, though, I think. I'm going to try and focus a little more on getting that overall proportion right the first time. Getting that little chunk of muscle that comes out at the top there. And coming around and down into the knee joint. This guy also has the prodigious calf muscle. And then, of course, we've got lower foot. And not so lower foot. Yeah, I give you the outline. Perfection. Coming on over to the other knee. I'm trying to pay attention to my knee lines here. This is a cool perspective. The knees really give a lot away, but this guy's knees are quite close together, which means that they have to be at roughly the same sort of height. Try that on yourself. Again, Hercules, big strong dude, part of the reason why we're drawing him. Trying to get just as much muscle into each drawing as possible, really. Alright, I feel like I got a little ambitious with the angle of that leg there. I should have let it... Ooh, that was a pretty decent curve, though. I'm fairly happy with that. And come around into the front of the calf muscle. Ooh. See, it's cool. You sort of learn things as you go. Each picture and pose requires a slightly different setup, obviously. And sometimes you do it and you don't get anything new really instructionally, but sometimes you pick up some really cool new stuff. Partly it's what you're paying attention to, less than the actual art you're doing. Focus a little bit like last time on the shading here. I come around, so he's pretty much all leg. And then somehow my other knee has projected. That's mildly problematic, so ideally the other leg would be way. That knee would be more like that. So that's the alteration that we're gonna make. I don't often try to fix perspectives when they're that far off, but I think that's probably, well, as probably as always, when you mess up, it's often a very good instructional moment. So I'll come along and try to fix that up. I want to figure out where my bad lines are and dominate them with better ones. So here's me dominating that line to try and get the curve of the hip. It's never going to be the hip, the knee. It's never going to be perfect. But if I can start to get some of these basic shapes and lines in, and figure out exactly where everything goes. See, I even get to reclaim a little bit of that there. That's nice. There we go. And then, fortunately, having left this bit out, I now discover it's also too far away. I'm going to get some more calf muscle out of this whole exchange, and then... See, the real flaw I made here, guys, was to totally misjudge the amount to which the legs were separate. I'm going to spend a little bit of my used up time here just trying to make this look a little more presentable. But yeah, there we go. This is not my best effort. I did a much better version of this guy last time. But that's okay. I'm going to try and shade in. That will hopefully fix some of these bad angles and shapes and bring some highlights on some of my good lines. Then come along in here. If I can just any supporting elements or shapes, and then just to try and rescue this just a little bit. And then I think move on. It's more shaded on the bottom here, so that's a good way to sort of reestablish a bit of authority once your drawing has gotten away from you. But yeah, ultimately this would... I drawing like this every now and then is good. Oh my gosh. Just admitting that you really didn't get there. Oof. Let's see if I can redeem myself with this final image here. Instead of using Arnie this time, we're using an absolute legend in the bodybuilding world. For legs in particular, we're using the main man, Tom Platz. Tom has some of the craziest leg development I've ever seen. This time I'm going to start with that center line. I'm going to use what I learned in this horrible mistake. And I come along. It's got a beautiful sweep into the calf here. Already feeling better about this. I'm using small lines here because I'm low on confidence. Now I'm using longer lines because I've reminded myself that I'm using small lines because I'm low on confidence, and I don't want to be seen as having low confidence, so, you know, gotta go fix that. I'm gonna draw some sock. Don't draw all the sock though, because I'm not sure how crazy huge this guy's legs are going to be. Then he's wearing a shirt. Drop in the rest of his gym shorts or whatever he's wearing. We're going to go with gym shorts, okay. I really want to not mess up this split here, so I'm going to, as I mentioned already, you've never seen this picture, just look up Tom Platt's legs. You'll see it. It's the only one. Absolute legend. Amazing physique. Absurd legs. Let's hopefully you will see emerge. This line, oh. That line is not the line I should have laid down. Often it's quite distracting to throw down the wrong line first. Now I'm coming around for the outside of the leg. It's, I guess, absolute beast. I gotta bring it in sharp and fast into the knee. I think I pulled it off. Not bad at all. So hit that upper curve. Comes down into the musculature. These guys are absolute legends. Look at that. I think I pulled a little high. Such a crazy sweep of the knee. You know what? Even if it's a little big, Tom deserves it. This first one might look a little chunky to start with, but promise me by the time all the rest of this is in, it's not gonna matter. So this is just the most insane region here. I've already duffed it a little bit, but this time, as opposed to trying to fix, I'm just going to try to accommodate. Because the rest of my lines are so much better. I'm just going to trust them to overpower. This crazy muscle actually only comes up to like here. Spending a bit more time on this one, obviously. Putting a bit more effort in. Trying to get it quite right. It's crazy how his muscles are just like beside each other. Some of them, you know, they're not even like these two, there's like space between them. There's like muscle just like separating other bulges of like not the way you expect the body to work. This I think is actually this guy. Oh my gosh, that's so absurd. Okay. Yeah, I think I managed to get the right number of pieces. This isn't going to be quite Tom Platz's legs, but, you know, an homage for sure. The lines are just so crazy. So this bit curves in like so. And now I think I genuinely have most of the sort of dominating shapes of this upper thigh worked out. Crazily enough, this is just like a wall of muscle. Just trying to smooth things out, give it some depth and shape. Give these lines a bit more meaning. Trying to focus on the logic of my own image in this moment, as opposed to worrying too much about what the reference is. That's something you sort of have to learn how to switch in between. Sometimes your reference is the most important thing, sometimes it's what's on the page, and you just learn, it's okay. You just experience it over time. Get a feel for it. Ooh, I like that curve, I like that shade. It's very dark on the inside here. I'm using a harder pencil this time, but that's okay. For something like this, I'd rather just pick up a tool and keep using it than mess around with too many variations. Let's give this fastest the same sort of remarkable shape and shadow that it has in the actual image. Perfect. Come over here, toss a bit of shadow in there. I must admit, we're getting pretty close to there. Gotta get this shin in though. Cool. Throw in a bit more sock action, but this is really about likes. The one big thing I'm missing here is the dividing shadow. So I'll start putting that in. Right now. Right there. And then the peak of the shadow is sort of like here. So you map that out beforehand before coming back and actually darkening it. There we go. Don't lose that peak, but and then stays at this intensity throughout the rest of the muscle. And again, just try and blend it down appropriately. Having added that particular shadow, that particular pretty dominating logic to our art, we now have to go through and play with some of the consequences. So for example, this knee has to be somewhat shaded just due to the vast size of that muscle above it. This is a vein. Look at that vascularity, man. And then I'm just gonna try and gently reduce these highlights. Just to give it a better feeling. Or at least I feel it's a better feeling. Still not quite getting it all the way I would like, but a couple few little details up here. A few shadows from the cloth and things. And I think moving over onto the sympathetic leg over here. Watching on. Quietly observing. There's a vein that runs. Trying to apply some similar techniques so I end up with a similar shape and image. I'm not going to throw that heavy shading in until a little bit later. I might come back actually because some of this is a little soft. But I'm down to my last, yeah, look at that. Done in my last 5 minutes, so I can't waste my time on this. There we go. I'm going to focus on cleaning up this other area. Like, the good news is that the actual progress made from the first one does in no small way help. Of course, same sort of knee rules as before. It's got to come down to a semi-shaded distance. And this one, it strikes out to about there, I think. Beautiful shape here. Wee, look at that curve. And that just sort of like peters out. It's interesting. Still looking pretty blocky, but there's a lot of shade. This one I think is slightly behind. I'm not even sure what that would be. I don't know. Beyond my comprehension, these particular legs. Beyond human comprehension. Legs. Second, I had a moment wondering if I hadn't turned our record on. I've done that a couple times. It's not fun. That's actually a pretty smooth line by me. This one still looks quite a bit rougher, but I think it's mostly... It's just so much more in shadow. But I always try to work in my shadows very gently and from the outside in. Always. I often do. Ooh, okay. So that's a bit of... piece by piece, I think we're getting somewhere. Just trying to give it the same sort of volume and shape as the other one. Spend that bit of time with each brush stroke. Except from the color, I'm going to come back and check my reference again. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. There's this one line over here that actually like comes down in. I don't understand why, but or how, but that's what it does, I swear, man. Then just in general, this whole section, especially this line, has huge overshadowing. And then this line actually is defined by that shadow there, more than almost anything else, as far as I can tell. And then this external shadow is really dominant. And now we're starting to get the sort of like popping effect on the right leg that I was hoping we would manage to accomplish. Really very light, lots of highlight, and then into the knee we get a bit more activity. Just like that, I think is probably fine. I want a bit of darkness and shape over here. But other than that, I'm starting to feel pretty good about this guy. So, this time I managed to do this all successfully without producing a video of terrible quality. And hopefully the sound is set up this time so that everybody can hear it and the video comes through nicely. Fingers crossed. Over time, I guess, at a certain point, I'll have to think about what it takes to actually make these entertaining. But right now, the focus is actually producing something that is at least somewhat instructional in the techniques that I'm interested in preserving for you guys, or with you guys. Yeah, because that's really, learning is ultimately all about that, right? We're preserving information, man. Like, if, you know, it feels like everybody knows stuff, but at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't learn something, too many people stop learning that thing, there's a chance it just goes away. You know, and that can be a good thing too. Maybe it's a good, maybe there's some things that we need to forget. But on that note, I think it's probably time to stop this drawing. I'm pretty proud of these legs. I think those are pretty freaking fantastic. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you do some of drawing for yourself and create something that you love and that you're proud of. And if you create something that you hate or that sucks like this, just keep chugging, you know? That was okay. That one's this one's blah. And then that one I'm really proud of. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for just being awesome and for looking after yourself and being kind to others. Have a great day, and bye for now.